back, everyone. It has been a long time since the Leafs and Lads have been here. We actually, our last recorded podcast was after our Game 6 loss. So we never really touched on the Game 7. And, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to ride things when things are good. When things are bad, we're going to dip out on you.
Relive the pain.
We said we wanted a level head when we talked about this, and it only took us 5 months.
Yeah. Actually, I did want to start off with that exactly, because after we lost that series, Din and I actually had pretty level heads about what happened. It was Mark that was freaking out. And yeah,
actually deleted all their stuff, and I haven't got it back yet. So I'm.
That was me the year before, so that's fair.
So I want to start off with Mark, and I want to start off with your feelings as soon as that series ended versus now. Have they changed, and why were you so mad?
I bought fully in on these playoffs, and they just let me down again. And in the off season, I deleted all the accounts so I couldn't see their news. And then I started seeing a little bit of some of the players they picked up in the off season, and I'm like, how's this going to be any better as that guy? And here we are now. They already played a preseason game, and I'm not that excited yet.
They won 4-1. Let's go.
So you're still not that excited. That's where you're.
Yeah, I'm not as upset 5 months ago. It took like a whole month just to look at a Leafs related article.
Okay. Now, Din, what were your thoughts after? And I think we agree mostly on this, but I want to hear your thoughts after versus now.
I think it was just like, when Schmidt, you said I fully bought in, like that's kind of on you, right? Like you fully bought in. I was like, we're facing objectively to be the best team in the playoffs. So I was like, okay, well, if we lose, like that makes sense. Now, if you pick, go down to the nitty gritty of the whole game, right? There's the Hall pick that ended up getting called for a penalty. And I think that was the Tavares goal that got pulled back, which sucked. Right. But like, I feel like if you watch another 7-game series, you're going to have, if you're a fan of any other team, you're going to have those things that happen. I think it just gets blown up so much more because we're Leafs fans, right? Like it gets put everywhere. And it was Game 7, right? That happens in Game 2, right? Like different. So that's like a big thing to happen, right? But like the actual something crazy like that, changing the momentum of the game, it happens, I think, to most teams. It just gets blown up here just because, we're Leafs fans. That's why I wear the Arenas jersey, because technically I can say it's not a Leafs jersey, and it makes me feel better.
Fair enough. I actually just quickly scrolled back up to the messages post Game 7. So I'll just read.
I haven't talked to Isaac or Schmidt in 5 months.
So Mark's, I actually don't want to watch them anymore. Cool, we had records won, but we can't fucking win in the playoffs. So fucking dumb. Fuck, I'm so mad. I need to try and stay motivated because I just can't see what will make this team win.
Yeah,
they're perennial losers. We will have a good pod and talk about what it would take. Could change my mind, but frig, I just can't see how you change that. Believe in what? They're out of the playoffs again. So,
you know what? I'm not totally out of that.
It sounds like your girlfriend cheated on you. It sounds like Victor Hedman fucked your wife.
So this is my thoughts, and I mostly agree with you, Din. I get that people are going to say, well, you lost. That's all that matters in the end. But we outplayed and should have beaten the team that came second in the end and could have beaten Colorado if everyone was healthy. And objectively, they had a better goalie than us, and we still almost beat them. So I just feel like after that season, it was like, we're so close. I felt like run it back immediately. I felt like re-sign Gio, get all the boys back together. Like at that point, I was even thinking like Campbell would be back with the team. Now we'll get to what happened there. But I honestly, at this point, and we'll get to our new look lineup, I feel better about this team this year than last year's team. And you can say that we've gone through some subtractions with
I need to know
stuff like that. But let's go over our prospective lineup, the lineup that we're looking like we're going to get. And then we'll talk about where you guys see weaknesses and strengths.
Well, let's pull back a bit. Why did we lose? Because if you feel better about this team, then you have to tell me why we lost and why the new team is going to make you feel like that wouldn't happen. We can talk about the Lightning being way better and not just being unlucky, but we're going to face a good team if we play 4 rounds.
Yeah. Is this 2 seasons in a row where we lost to the team that made it to the Cup?
Yeah. And 3 of the last 4, because Boston did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Playoff seeding.
I think that what we lacked last year was good refs. And I know that's such a typical Leaf fan thing to say, but realistically, it was a terribly ref series from start to finish. Terribly ref. Now that's not going to change. So we're going to have to work within the bounds. Our top guys showed up when it mattered. Although Tavares was invisible first 3 games, and then all of a sudden he became John Tavares. So I think that's just what we expect from him from now on.
Yeah.
I think that's just what we have to expect.
I think coin flip Chansey's actually better this year, just because it was funny. I was listening to the Buds and Blue Jays podcast, and they're like, Teoscar's had a kid, so now he's got dad strength. And I'm like, no, Teoscar's not going to get more than 2 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Right? He struck out like 3 times the next game after that. But he's on a tear now, so it all evens out of the wash. But like, he had a full off season where his head wasn't mashed potatoes. Right? Like, seriously, right? He even said that. And then 2, he had a kid in that off season as well. Or like before, right. I think it was during the season last year. So I think now all these guys have kids, so that's always going to happen. But the combination of like his head, becoming a watermelon off the bridge and the kid, I think he could be poised for a better season this year. And I hope that maybe they find better line combinations, but I guess we might need better players for that too.
Right. Wasn't he not even like that bad last year? Just
his points plus minus and metrics didn't look bad, but the eye test was a different story for me personally. Yeah,
okay.
But the other thing
remember, like Willie and him put up like 82 points, but like if you look back in that conversation and just type in Tavares and Nylander, we were mad at the like 40 games of the year. Yeah. Other than I remember the first 20 games, we said Nylander looked like the best player on the ice.
Yeah, 100%. And he can. That's the thing. That's what's so frustrating about both of them is when Tavares is on, he's like Olympic level Tavares. Like he's absolutely insane. But it was just frustrating because the first 3 or 4 games of that series, he was absolutely invisible. And then all of a sudden he came alive and was a number 1 center. And it was like, who it reminded me of is Steven Stamkos in that series. Guy was invisible for a bit. And I think they're close to the same age, not the fastest guys, never were the fastest guys, have good leadership, have good shots, like can play a role. And sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not. But I think that's what we can expect from him. Just like that's what Lightning can expect from Steven Stamkos is when they have a healthy Stamkos, you have a guy that is one of the best players in some games. In some games, he's just a good defensive player that can put up the good stats.
How about this? I'm confident he's not going to be worse this year.
I like that. that.
I think there's going to be no regression. And if there is, it's going to even out just because of the actual offseason he had.
Right. Now let's start with the forwards, move down to the defense, and then we'll end with the goalies. Now, our forwards are looking pretty similar on the first 6 to last year. Depends on what's going to happen with Alex Kerfoot, which we can get to. But Bunting, Matthews, Marner looks like the first line. Kerfoot, Tavares, Nylander looks like the second line, although Robertson could slot in there. If it was up to me, that would be what's happening. The third line, Engvall is day-to-day with an ankle injury right now, but it looks like he's going to be back for the start of the season. Engvall, Kampf, and Kalle Järnkrok. And then our fourth line, these are the players vying for that fourth line. Are you ready? Okay. Aston Reese, Gaudette, Abe Kubel, Simmons, Steves, Anderson, Abruzzese, Clifford, Malgin. Now, that is a lot of players vying for 3 spots in a line that probably shouldn't be getting more than 8 or 9 minutes a game. The reason that I like this team and as the forwards better this year is because we're going to have a little bit more of an identity. Mikheyev is out. There's no way we're signing him for as much as Vancouver did, which I'm very happy with. But Kalle Järnkrok is a similar type player who can, I think, can be a little bit more reliable than Mikheyev. He doesn't get hurt as much. Yeah. He can also play center. So he's another like Kerfoot kind of guy where if you need him in a pinch on a center position, he can play it. And I mean, he doesn't score very much, but I mean, neither did Mikheyev, so you're not missing out on much. And then your fourth line
actually goals per game doesn't matter if he doesn't play.
Right. And if you have a line like Engvall, Kampf, and Yarncroc, like they're not supposed to score. That is a shutdown line, and I absolutely love it. And then the fourth line with those guys, you can make three combinations which can do the job effectively and have an identity, whether you want to go all defense with like an Aston Reese, Abe Kubel, and maybe a Gaudette in center, or if you want to go a little bit more banger with Simmons. I don't think Clifford makes the team, but Simmons, Anderson, and Steves, you have a lot
Clifford's
of
like 30, man. Clifford's barely even played in the AHL in like the last 5-6 years. Like this guy's kind of an NHL player now. I still agree. I just think saying Simmons over Clifford might be wrong.
Yeah, I just think they've invested a little more into Simmons, and I feel like they will
Is this his contract year? Simmons?
Final year, probably his final year in the NHL. Let's be honest.
Simmons, this is
hopefully he just goes all out.
Yeah,
but like all out after a 4-day bender isn't much, man.
Now, before we get to the specifics on fourth line players, what do you guys think of that lineup? Do you think I'm right in saying that we could be potentially better than last year's?
I think there's something to be said about not screwing with the lines too much, right? Like, because you talked about like McKay not playing much and Cash not playing much. We also have to think about how often the other guys on those lines are getting new line mates, right? I think there's got to be something to be said for more reps together. You said reps. Now I'm going to say reps. I'm going to sound just like I said about having these guys play together more often, especially for the guys that like haven't played many NHL games, right? Like MacArthur, Kuhlman, and Grabowski alone were nothing, but together, right? So maybe if I like that you have so many guys, but I remember last year what I said, and I was fucking right. Give Liljegren games, and not like if he plays 3 bad games in a row, you just take him out, let him play, and see what happens. Now there was injuries and stuff, and then he had to play, so they didn't really do that. But you need these, they need to play minutes, right? So I think too, play minutes together, right? So I hope if they come up with a third line and it works decently, keep it, don't move it. Fourth line you can screw with day to day, right? And like we say third line, fourth line, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Especially with all those guys. And it's funny, the backups that like the fourth line and +6 that you had. It's funny because every year I'm like, ooh, our substitute guys are a bit better than last year, right? Like you look back, right?
Yeah.
Who started on the left wing
every
last
time.
year? It was Richie and VC.
No, that was the year before.
Before, right? Okay, well then there you go. Just you go with that. Like those are the 2 previous first line left wingers.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Those were the start. And we were pretty pumped up for that. And I'm so even keel about like, Abe Kubel might fit. I'm like, he might. It might work. He could be a second line left winger. Kerfoot might work. These guys might work, but I'm not bought in on anyone. And I was bought in on VC. I was bought in on Richie, and that was fucking wrong.
I think we've just learned our lesson a little bit more. Like I think we just know that these guys are role players, and we're not going to be like, hey, Adam, like Gaudette had one great season in Vancouver. Like we can totally expect that from him again.
Yeah.
Like no, just like he if he needs to be a solid fourth line winger or center, great. That's all we want from him.
Gonna be on the team.
Yeah, I agree. And just for everyone who isn't following things as much as Din and I'm going to go over each player a little bit more, just give a little bit of a background so you can kind of understand them. This is for you too, Mark.
Oh, yeah. Well, so the one thing before you do that is, like Din said, last year, I remember the first month, that third and fourth line, and even part of the second line, they just kept swapping guys, and it was so frustrating. Mm-hmm. But this year it looks like the first 3 lines are almost set, and then it's just going to be a rotation on the fourth, which I really hope they do as well.
Yeah, we're also like the issue is like we don't have cap space right now, and I would like to sign Sandin. Now we'll get to that, but like, is Kerfoot going to be on this team? So if Kerfoot is on this team,
he is. Okay, he would be gone.
Okay, so Kerfoot is on this team. So Robertson is another guy we can add to that 9. Because he's playing in the NHL this year.
Yes, he is. I don't know. I hate it's fucking guys like Tulloch and Myrtle going, he's not ready yet. I don't care. He's playing games, right? Like he had 0.6 goals per game in the AHL and a point per game. Like he's playing in the NHL.
Yeah.
And he's getting minutes. We're talking about guys like Alex Steves making the NHL. And we're also talking about like we need to get lucky on a couple guys, right? We need a couple buntings if you want to win the cup. Every team that wins the cup has a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, who the hell is this guy? And you can't, like, you're not winning Albie Kubel is not getting 50 points.
Yeah.
Gaudette, maybe, right? Like
Abe
Robertson,
Kubel isn't
maybe.
getting 20 points, and I'm okay with it. You know, like
Yeah.
like that's the thing is like Pittsburgh that's how they had dynasty for so many years was there was guys that just came out of nowhere like Gensel. It's like who is like, who what you know like Aston Reese is another one just came out like what this guy's a great third line defensive player. So quickly over these guys because we can add Robertson to that mix. We all know Robertson. Robertson's one of my favorite players in the team. The guy's gonna go absolute beast mode this year. Aston Reese we signed to a PTO, so a professional tryout. So he's not officially signed to the Leafs. We don't know if he's just a placeholder while Engvall is out.
No. So he came out yesterday and said they're like, oh, you're a PTO, so you can sign elsewhere. And he basically said like, yeah, but I think of myself as a loyal guy. My plan is to stick around here. So there's a handshake agreement somewhere.
Right. I mean, he's going to say
you don't say you don't say that because there's 31 other teams that could sign you. You're doing that to maybe play on as the 13th forward. No way. There's a handshake somewhere.
Aston Reese is one guy that I would like to have glued to that fourth line because his defensive metrics is absolutely insane. You know who he is? He's like a Nash, but good.
So I know you told me about him like right before we started recording, but what for the average guy should like about
hardworking, amazing defensively, like his defensive metrics are like within the top 15 in the entire league.
Selkie votes.
Yeah, like Jesus can't do anything offensively. So if we can accept that, he can also play on a third like let's say Engvall gets hurt, probably can expect that at some point of the year, like one of those three guys gets hurt, he can fill into that shutdown line in a pinch. Great, perfect playoff type player. So that's why a lot of people should like him. And we can sign him to a cheap contract. He was expected probably to get 1.5 to 2. That's what a lot of people were saying. And then for some reason, a lot of these guys, Sonny Blano as well, just haven't been signed. So we got really lucky with this guy because we have no cap space.
Okay.
We wanted to sign him even like people wanted to sign him right at the start of free agency. Like he wasn't like what's left kind of guy. It was like what can fit with our cap space. And it was looking like people were saying like 1.25 to 1.75.
Yeah.
So we'll get him for 750 to 9.
So Gaudette is a guy who can play center and the wing. Played on the Sens last year, I believe. Was in and out of the league. Didn't do too well, but the year before he was on the Vancouver Canucks and he put up points.
Claimed by center.
Put up points in the year before. Now, credit to downtown Stephen Brown. I hope everyone's still checking that guy out because we're not going to get into as deep a stats as that guy does. But I am going to cherry pick some of the stuff he said. And apparently last year, Gaudette was going through a major stomach issue and digestive issue, which could have led to his regression in play. He is a speedster. He looks absolutely amazing. I remember playing against him with the Sens, and it was like, this guy's great. So he can be a fast guy who's going to get into the corners. And could play up and down the lineup a little bit, although I wouldn't. I would like him to stay on the fourth line on a cup contending team, but that's why he's going to make the team. Dan and I both think so, and I would really like to see it.
He gained 24 pounds from this time last year, and that's not because he got super jacked. That's that stomach thing.
Yeah.
Right. So that might have been enough. If that's a full, he might. I don't know what his weight the year previously was, but let's just say that was all weight coming back. That was in the offseason, started training camp. This guy was 24 pounds less than he usually sits at. Now, this guy was, an absolute like milk bag, basically.
Yeah. So he
empty milk bag.
Yeah. So he's definitely someone that we can like look forward to probably making this team. And I'm really rooting for him because he seems like a good guy too. And I really like those fast guys who aren't afraid to go into the corners. The next guy is Abe Kubel, who played on the Colorado Avalanche. Last year, he was in and out of the lineup, especially during the playoffs. I think he only played about half of the games, but he's a guy, you can't expect too much from him. It sounds like he really wants to be here, which is nice. And he's going to be like another guy who's just fast, getting into the corners, does the little things well, but isn't going to give you too much point production, is never going to be a guy who plays really top 9. He'll just be a plug and play on your fourth line if you need him. And I think it's going to be interesting because we just named Robertson probably making this team, Aston Reese probably making this team, Gaudette probably making this team. Now Simmons is, let's be real, I'm down with him not making the team, but he's going to make the team just based on pedigree, and that's what they do.
We can't. Wait. Before we get into signing Sandin, if we sign Sandin, I know Muzzin's at the start of the season, so that'll be fine. But once that happens, right? I know he makes 750, but I don't think we can hold. We're going to hold 7 defensemen, right?
Yeah, especially with Ben and Mete.
Yeah, and we'll have to because we can't sit. can we send it? No, we can't send any of these guys down.
Yeah.
Right. So can we hold 13 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies with that money?
No, we could have 1 extra player, I believe, unless we
So
trade
it's gonna be,
Hall or
and it's going to
Kerfoot.
be, it can be a forward at the beginning of the season until Muzzin's back.
Yeah.
But after that, it can't be. So does he play at the start? You give him the extra like 10 games till Muzzin's back, 5-10 games. And if he's, dog water, then you just go, hey man, you're not good. So
well, and the other thing too is we can totally do the Spezza treatment where he says, I'm retiring if someone claims me.
Someone will always be hurt, I feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what Downtown once again was saying is like, we're in cap trouble right now, but they're kind of just waiting long enough without all these guys getting hurt. Muzzin might be hurt, and that gives $5 million cap space. Let's say he gets hurt.
You're good.
Or there's a mysterious injury that happens to Muzzin, and then he's mysteriously ready after the trade deadline. Like there are things like that.
There was always someone hurt.
Right.
There's always someone hurt, yeah.
Yeah, and Liljegren's another guy who gets hurt a lot. So, there's going to be little tricks. I believe Dubas knows what he's doing. Steves is the next guy. I don't think Steves is going to make this team, but we all have seen him. I think he played like 5 or 6
Isn't
games.
he the one who
Leafs.
killed it last year?
He did do really well, but he's not an NHL player yet. He might be one of those guys that comes up like Engvall, just comes out of nowhere and turns into like a 3rd-line player down the road. But
how
I'm
about
not.
This? You don't need him to make the team.
No, you don't need him to make, which is good.
Yeah. I know, that's what I mean. Like, it's actually a really good thing, right? We
Yeah.
say things like Nick Robertson and like Ben Kubel, and it's like you kind of need them. And Simmons is the best example, right? You kind of need him to make the team.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of be like, hey, Alex, Wayno over here. We have this little handshake thing. You go play on the first line down there. First person that comes up, promise I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Right?
And then
you
say
try
that to Anderson and Aberzizi
all of them. And be like, don't tell anyone else.
Yeah.
It's just between me.
Yeah, and I'm going to lump Steves in with Anderson and Aberzizi. They're going to be guys that start in the AHL, and they can come up in a pinch depending on what you need. They're all kind of the same guy. Aberzizi has a little bit more upside than any of them, but I mean, last year he didn't look good, but he's also young coming off the NCAA, right? So give the guy a break, give him a couple of years in the AHL. And the thing too is like, we have some guys coming off. I hope we re-sign Bunting, but like we might not be able to. And we have Nyes coming up. Pontus Holmberg looks awesome. Like we have these guys who can fill these roles coming up in the next couple of years.
Kerfoot's money can be Bunting's, plus you take the differential of the $1 million extra with the salary cap going up.
And Muzzin, right? Like Muzzin probably won't be with this team after.
Brody's got this plus 1.
Yeah. So we have a lot. This is the final year. I think we're in cap issues.
There's like this kind of window, like 2 years from now, 2 years from now, where we might have some space.
Yeah. And we'll have our like Topies coming up.
That's what I mean. Lily and Sandy will still be getting paid 1.5 or whatever.
Yeah. We'll have like a couple more years window.
Yeah.
Our final 2 guys, I'm just going to mention, probably won't make the team. Probably Clifford might end up being like a, who's the guy that played in the HL for 10 years and was the captain?
Clune.
Yeah, Rich Clune. He might turn into Rich Clune. He loves Toronto.
No. I think Clifford gets traded. I think they're going to get camp, and nothing. You get a conditional 7. But if any 31 other teams need a 13th forward who's also tough, and he's only 29-30, they'll just take a 7th for him, and then he'll just go through the waivers and just do that shit again. Actually,
right. But
does he have a one-way contract?
I don't know.
It's got to be 2-way. He went up and down a lot, didn't he?
Wayno's is a 1-way, I think.
Yeah.
It's variable, but yeah.
Personally, I think Clifford is he's a local boy. He has a family. He probably doesn't want to move around too much. He's down with making his money.
He hasn't made enough money and stuff yet, really. He's made $14 million. I know we're just digging deep on this guy. No. So he just signed a 2-year, $1.52 million deal. It is variable. Yeah, no, he's staying here. He's going to take cash in. It's going to last $1.5 million, and then that'll be it.
Yep. And if you need a guy to come up and you need some grit, perfect. Dennis Malgin is the last guy I'm going to mention. Guy is just a forgotten. He might go back to the Swiss League last year. Like he got a point today, I think. Played on the line with Nylander. Yeah, so he's just a guy that we have. But he also might, he might be one of those surprise guys that they're just like, you're on the team.
Dude, he got traded for Mason Marchman. That guy's
Yeah.
pretty good. So it's got to be highly pretty.
Hey, we won that trade because Mason Marchman is too much money now. So we still have Malgin. So there you go. We won.
Bold statement. We also won the Kessel trade. GG.
Yeah. Is his money off the books this year? Is this the first year it's off or last year it's off?
Yeah. This is
Right on. Okay.
That's what that we gave that money to Riley already though.
Yeah. So everyone in the comments, welcome back, by the way. Please put who you would like to see on your fourth line. And then as an extra guy, I think we're all like Robertson, Aston Reese, Abe Kubel, and Godet are our guys that we're kind of looking at, with Simmons, unfortunately, probably making the team. Now,
the Wayne train goes on.
Now let's touch on defense. We'll be quick because we'll leave defense a lot for the next episode because we're gonna have a few here before the season starts. They mentioned that Ben and Mete are setting themselves apart on the Leafs depth chart. 2 depth guys, especially without Sandin signing yet, that we might very well need. One of them will probably go through waivers and will definitely be claimed if we can even hold another guy on the depth chart. It's going to really depend on Sandin. But those are great guys to have as your, like, our defense gets progressively better every year. We all love the Geo signing.
3 assists today.
3 assists today.
Anything, but that's like, I don't know.
It's nice to see. Yeah, it's nice to see it. And like, he's going to be our Spezza, but on the back end for a couple of years. So I'm really happy with that signing. This is exactly what I predicted last year. I don't want to toot my horn too much. But Sandin,
toot it if you need to, buddy. It's our podcast, so toot whatever you need to toot. Let's
talk about Sandin. Din, start us off. What do you think happens with Sandin, and what would you like to see happen with Sandin?
He gets re-signed. Right. And you saw that, I think I was listening to Dangle or CJ's podcast, and it was like he's comparing his contract to Boqvist, but Boqvist played hockey last year and the year before.
Double
Sandin. Does Sandin have 80 games played?
I would estimate no.
Does anyone guess that he has played?
No.
Okay, over under 70 games.
60.
Played.
60 games is my guess, and it's probably under, honestly.
So he's played 88 games. Okay. 28 he's at a 26.5 goal, 20 assist pace on 82 games. Like, that's not anything really. And he played a grand total of 51 games last year, 9 games a year before with us, and 28 games a year before. Like, and he didn't play in the playoffs last year. Like, I just don't know where you see that $2.8 million. I know they talked about wanting Liljegren and him to sign on the same day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like almost fucky because, like, you can't give him like $200,000 more than Liljegren. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost easier to give him like $1 million more than $200,000 more.
Also, who played the playoffs last year?
Liljegren. And who had Rookie of the Year votes? I know Sandin couldn't, but actually no. I think he could. No, he played like 1 too many games, whatever. But he's gonna resign. He's got fucking no leverage, right?
Yeah. And if someone wanted to claim him, they would have already. But like, we all love
Nobody has cap space. Nobody has cap space.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to make a trade and then offer sheet someone, like, and then what? The Leafs match it, and now they're out the guy they had to trade.
Yeah.
Right. It's not gonna happen. Right. So Sandin, young defenseman, is he built for a cup contender? Or is he built for a rebuilder? Because no rebuilders are going to throw down offer sheets while they're building their team up against the Leafs. We're just going to screw with them.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I think it just gives a bad name. Nobody trusts anyone then. I honest to God think GMs literally talk about like, hey, nobody do this. Like, no offer sheets this year. All right, guys?
It's kind of like nuclear war.
Gentleman's game.
Everyone's just like, duh.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's exactly it. That's actually a perfect analogy, right? We have it just so you have it. I think they're used almost in a sense to put some pressure on signing these guys and not letting them go unsigned. But no, I think it's just like
unspoken rule, mutual self-destruction.
Right, exactly. The only one we've actually seen happen was a GM literally attacking another, like straight up attacking another GM, right?
Yeah.
Like slightly burying their own franchise for a fuck you. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What is he going to sign for? I understand that it makes sense that they said, why would he sign a 1-year deal if he might be a 7th defenseman? Because then you're just setting yourself up even worse, right? He's only got a few RFA years left. So the 3-year deal makes a lot of sense. The 8-year, like you sign him for 8 years and give him 3.5 per makes sense. And we'd all be happy for that. But the Leafs don't even have the 3.5. So we can't do that, right? So it has to
You
be
not
like,
do the like ladder thing where you give them 2, 3, and then like overpay them and like the.
we don't have the cap space. We physically, I don't think, could sign him for the more than
We
like
don't even have
1.5
cap
million.
space for an extra man.
Actually, you know what? I straight up don't think we have enough cap space.
No.
I think we'd have
That's the issue right now.
6-2 if we did that. And like
Wow.
Muzzins are, like we said, someone's always going to be hurt, so it's relatively fine. But the whole thing is, we all knew, we've talked about this, Hull or Kerfoot would have to be traded for us to sign someone, and that's even after like Liljegren taking a little bit less money than I think we thought he would. Like our guys that we filled in, like Yarncrow, Abe Kubel, Gaudet, costing less than we thought. We still don't have enough. I think at first we were like, oh, we have to trade both to keep this whole team. Giordano signed for less than what we thought. I think when I did the math, to sign the guys we needed to, we had to trade Kerfoot and Hull. And now I think all we need is kind of rid of one of them or just a couple million. But I don't think we can actually sign Sandy.
Is there any rumblings of Leafs trading away one of them?
Yeah, there's a bit of more Hall. It started out with Kerfoot.
Hall.
Now it's a little bit more in on Hall, which I would be down for because our defense depth is awesome.
Yeah.
And he's another one of those guys. He's not going to re-sign with the team after this year.
No.
Straight up. So he's one of those guys where you have the ability to put guys in who can be the same, better, or maybe slightly worse, but there's not much of a drop off at the very least. And you actually get something for a valuable defensive guy that teams are looking for that can play meaningful minutes, especially shorthanded minutes on a possible cup contending team. So I would like to get something rather than nothing. And you can replace him with guys like even Mete and Ben.
Okay, 2 questions. If he doesn't play, do we still make the playoffs?
Yes,
Is he playing in the playoffs?
probably, knowing them, but I wouldn't want him to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was hoping you'd say no. The hope is that like also there's also the trade deadline, because if you gave me no on both of them, then it's trade them now, right?
Yeah. But I mean, last year we would prefer Sandine. I know he's coming off an injury, but we prefer Sandine, but he was still in there. So that's what I'm saying.
I just like high when it comes to the playoffs and stuff, like higher ceiling, low floor guys, especially for a team that's been out 6 straight years. Like low floor isn't working.
Yeah.
Right? Because it just we need to play better than we are. Like we need to play better than our baseline.
Yes.
Right. So how are we going to do that? Justin Hall isn't scoring a fucking goal.
Except for today, I believe.
Yeah, except for today.
Yeah.
But so did Dennis Mulgeen. But he
Yeah.
also was traded from Mason Marchment. So
Yes. There you go.
But no, like he's not going to score. I just like these higher ceiling, lower floor guys. And like like Sandy needs to play 80 games, right?
Yeah. I mean, who would you rather? Let's go back to some Buds and Blue Jays. Who would you rather play in a Game 7 of a World Series, Gabby Moreno or Raimel Tapia?
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, perfect.
You know, yeah. So I agree with you. You always want those higher ceiling guys because they're not going to be the difference maker if they're not that good, but they can be an absolute
We faced
difference
the
maker.
best and worst team in the league probably the last 2 first rounds. I know Montreal made the playoffs, but regular season, right?
Yeah.
So and that's all you can know. That's all you know going to the playoffs. In the first round of the first game, you can't say playoff style hockey, this and that, until you start playing them. Because as we noticed last year, the refs might start making more calls, and then it's not playoff hockey, right? So if you know, I know we're just talking about playoffs now, but that's how you got to decide for these guys to play or not.
Are we
So,
boring you, Mark?
Yeah.
want me to chug a Summersby?
I need to right now.
Demonetization incoming. I agree wholeheartedly. I think our defense is going to be the best it has been since we were very young.
What did we get Jordy Ben for?
Just nothing.
750, I guess. Yeah.
Oh,
Same
right.
with, Mete.
Yeah.
What are we paying him?
750, I think. It's got to be, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I mean, one of him and Marte is going to get dropped down. They're going to get claimed. That's just how it's going to go. So we'll just have to decide. I would slightly prefer Ben because we have enough guys like Mete already with them. But we'll see what happens as preseason goes around. Now,
what do you think happens with Sandy? Quick.
Sandy, I think 2 years at a little bit less so that he
Yeah.
can be resigned to more a little bit farther down the line, and he works within the constraints that the Leafs have. And I think I don't think they're stupid enough right now to like put themselves in the handcuffs. And I think they have things down with Muzzin or guys that can be like, you're hurt. I think honestly, there's little things like that they're smart enough to know the ins and outs, and everything will work out. I trust Dubas. I still do. I think hopefully we all do. This is
there's a lot that don't.
I don't have to no, but no. But you don't have to think he's good. You don't have to do this. You just have to trust him.
I think he's competent. Yeah.
He knows what he at least he thinks he believes in himself.
Yeah. Which brings us to the next little point about Dubas. Shanahan said that the extension wasn't going to be something that happened before the season, and Dubas said that he's totally fine with that. I really liked once again what Downtown said about that, where it's like Dubas is still making moves for the future, even though he's not assured an extension, which means that he totally believes in his process, which is all you can ask for. And I'm sure we'll get to talking about that more as the season goes on, but just initial thoughts to that statement by Shanahan and Dubas.
Mark, you go. Mark, do you think it makes a difference in Dubas's head at all that he doesn't have an extension compared to if he did? Do you think he would change anything at all, even the slightest?
No.
I think you're more right than basically most other GMs in the league, 99% of the GMs, that they would do things differently if they didn't have the extension, 100%. Right? Or if it was hanging in the balance. Not that it's a no, but we're going to wait for this year, right? Because I don't know what the actual Leafs head office, their idea of what is a good season, but I think it's actually the same as all of ours, which is win 2 rounds. So if it is that, is Dubas not going to then make stupid decisions to keep his job? Because at the end of the day, he wants to be the Leafs GM. You don't want to go anywhere else. There's no way.
Well, yeah. What happens if we have another first round exit? Like, he's gone.
I think
the thing is, though, once it gets to that point, he can't do anything anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
And I kind of like that pressure put on him to, you know, at the trade deadline. Actually, last year we didn't go for it. I think this year is the year that we do, that we spend some of those assets and we go for it a little bit more.
That's the caveat. Is maybe you don't give him the extension because you want him to do these things, right? When you look at it backwards, actually, not that like, was he going to make dumb decisions because he's got only 1 year left? It's like, right, he does.
What if we're in first place at trade deadline?
I think that's totally plausible. I think a lot of the teams, I think more parity in our division this year, but not as much top centered. Like, I think the best of the best teams have gotten a little bit worse, and the worst of the worst teams have gotten a lot better. So I think it's going to be more
for us because we're bad against bad teams, or good against we're bad against bad teams. So if they get better,
But wouldn't that make it a little more cautious at trade deadline? If we're first place, why would we tamper?
First place?
Well,
why would we tamper? Because the last 6 years.
Well, you would tamper because Tampa went out and got Shattenkirk, and who'd they get on that third line? They got 2 guys.
They got someone else.
Two guys on that third line. Last year they got Brennan. They got Brandon Hagel. So
and they get a Vancouver guy.
They won a cup because of that. So
wait, you said Tampa. You said Colorado, and then you moved to Tampa.
No, I said Tampa.
Okay,
Tampa went out for the last few years and have been first place basically all year, and still went out and
they got
moves at the
Ottawa guy.
Ottawa.
Nick
Paul. But the year before is what I'm talking about, or the year before that, there was like that. They got Shattenkirk.
He buried us.
That guy. Yeah, last year they got Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel. So like,
and they both played awesome.
That's why you do it. It's because if you're first place, you want to move yourself up on the gap that much more. Like the Rams going out and get Odell Beckham, right? Like,
you want it to be stupid. You want it to be dumb.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. Like, you just want to be like, do we really need him? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to hear. Like, we don't really need a guy there. It's like, but it's Patrick Kane, so fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're gonna touch on the goaltending next episode because we're running out of time a little bit, and we can talk about that I'm sure for a long time. Let's just go over the Leafs win today. Now they're playing again, I believe 30 minutes with the other half of their team. They won 4-1 today. Here's a tweet from Hendricks which kind of summarized some of the players that did well today. Is good first impressions are important. Second round pick Fraser Minton is a +4. A confidence builder before heading back to junior. Zach Aston Reese 4 hits. Alex Steves 2 goals all stood out, and 6 points from the D, including a combined 5 points by Giordano and Hall. Any thoughts about any of those players mentioned?
We're gonna win the cup.
Preseason, I think playing bad might mean something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't think playing good means something. I just mean like if you watch all the games, and I haven't, and I probably won't. And if a guy's like noticeably crap, I just don't know if that means he's going to turn it on. If a guy's scoring goals, if a guy's playing bad against bad opposition, he's fucking bad.
Yeah.
If someone's good playing against bad opposition, they might still be bad.
Yeah.
But it means more than the bad guy.
Mark, did you have any thoughts?
No, yeah, I like Din said, I'm glad they didn't play like absolute crap, because then I'd be like, yeah, that's a little concerning. But
yeah,
no, so far so good. I didn't know about Minton, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So
what about the other
overall pick? The guy is apparently a great two-way player with a great character. I believe he's like a master pianist or something like that. So
Master
like he
pianist, nice.
He could be one of those guys. I remember as soon as we drafted him, I was like, this guy is him and Nyes coming down the pipeline as centermen. Yeah. We are set up with Matthews and those three guys when Tavares moves to wing and
another center.
Yeah, we have really, for the first time in a long time, we can say that we actually have center depth. Yeah, so I'm really excited about these guys going forward. And Fraser,
those are so important to have those guys making 750 to 1.5 that play on that third, fourth, and we'll call it second, third, fourth line, right? Like that's kind of their potential, right?
Yep.
Who's the other young guy that everyone wanted to play in the playoffs last year?
Nice.
Oh yeah.
So he's
doing this
year?
He's
in the NCAA.
Potentially playoffs when his season's done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He said he was excited to come at the end of the year.
Okay.
He said that already. Yeah.
Sweet.
Because you can't say no 2 years in a row. And I think there's actually a chance next year that he makes the team, or he's like Marlies leaves kind of stuff. So you kind of have to come over now.
And I mean, it's perfect because I think he's 20 or turning 20. So he's going to be an older guy. So his entry level will still be those 3 years that we have him in his better years. Yeah. So that's going to be a little bit better for us, especially with having to re-sign guys like Matthews, Marner, and Nylander going forward.
Right on.
That's going to be perfect. And I like that he's out for this year because I think that we're already going to need to find space for guys like Robertson.
Yeah.
So
you'd have to play him, right?
Yeah. And
I couldn't tell him to leave college and then go play with the Marlies.
Yeah.
Right?
And if he's good enough, Tavares by that next year might be ready for the wing. So we'll talk about that more when we get to it. We'll let's wrap this guy up.
Have a good ending.
Yeah, we're going to be with you at least once a week through this. We're going to go over the goalies. We're going to go over the Leafs preseason. We're going to go over once again our predictions for this year. And like I said, put who you guys think should be in the roster this year, including defense, and what you think happens with Sandine in the comments. And everyone, please check out our boys at Buds and Blue Jays as the Jays about to get into the playoffs and hopefully have home field advantage, beating Tampa today. Let's all cross our fingers, check those boys out, and maybe we'll see Din on one of the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, I got my whole setup now.
So please.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next time. And also let us know what you want us to talk about in future episodes. Okay, peace out.
Bye.
Makes me feel like